Okay, everyone, welcome. Thank you. Councillors and members of the gallery, please note that we're about to commence recording this meeting. Your video and audio will be recorded and live streamed from now onwards. And the video will be available on YouTube after the meeting has finished. Thank you. Everyone, welcome to the first meeting of the new council and the meeting of the 29th of November 2022. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. And the Coorong District Council members acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Ngarrindjeri people, whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people, the country, and pay our respect to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nation people. So we're privileged today to be joined by Rita and Michael Lindsay, proud Ngarrindjeri locals, who will be conducting a traditional welcome to country for this first meeting of the new 2022 to 2026 council. So welcome, Rita and Michael, if you come up to the mic. Yes.
Welcome to Country will be given in the local Ngarrindjeri language, and it will be followed by an English translation. Ngākari Pangarinda, Nawi Michi Rita, I Kilanawi Michael, Ngarrindjeri Anga. Tuldanana Alye, Ngarrindjeri Ruang. Lalanan Wenda Maldi, Nakwana Kona, Mimina Ngacha Ngapalda, Wan Yalan, Ngarrindjeri Wurawaran, Rui, Baraka, Yalawa, Wairi, Wairi Warang, Rarakla Nangala Nang, Ripon, Chomberton, Nankari Pala Nomambi, Ngarrindjeri Ruang, Ngarrindjeri An, Nguldiando Anamak, Ngarrindjeri Ruang, Anungan. Good evening. My name is Rita. This is my brother Michael. We are Ngarrindjeri. We are meeting here today on Ngarrindjeri land. We acknowledge the creator, ancestors, totems and elders, and the continuing spiritual and cultural connection to our lands, waters, sky and spirit world. We ask them to cleanse, to heal, and to give everyone a safe journey traveling through Ngarrindjeri country. We, the traditional owners, welcome you all to Ngarrindjeri land. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Rita, very much for that warm welcome. I move to item 1 on the apologies. I do have one from Matt James, our Director of Roads and Infrastructure. For people watching today, the new council did take its oath of office last Tuesday, the 22nd of November, and we'll hope to attach that recording of that to our YouTube at the end of this meeting, if we may. Acknowledgements. So this being the first meeting of a new council term, I just would like to acknowledge and thank the outgoing councillors from the last term. So then Councillor Tracy Hill did nearly 4 years. Councillor Vern Leng contributed 8 years. Councillor Neville Yench did a total of 28 years across the Coorong Council and the previous District Council of Menangi, and Councillor Glenys Taylor contributed 4 full years in representing the district. I thank them all for their contributions and representing the entire Coorong community. Welcome, Jonathan. Item 2, confirmation of minutes, including the confidentials held on the 18th of October 2022. Someone move. Moving Councillor Rountree as the seconder. Any discussion around the contents of those minutes, councillors? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The new councillors, you have to vote one way or the other. I'm waiting to see his hand. That's what I'm voting for. I'm going up for 4 again. Thank you. Those against, that's carried unanimously, Ash. Item 3 is adjourned business. We have nil. Item 4 is the minute action list. Any questions, councillor? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you. I have 2 here, Mr. Mayor. 058/22, the implementation of the pay to use system at Canalpin Caravan Park. Is that up and running yet, please?
Through you, Mayor, in the absence of the director, it's the one question I didn't ask him. I'll take that on notice and circulate it out of session.
Your second question is?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 040/19, the issue of the potable water at East Wellington. As we're all aware, the upcoming river flows of the Murray and the quality of water supplying East Wellington is a bit of concern. Or is council going to pressure SA Waters for some more quicker response? That's in me dragging the chain.
Well, councillor, thank you. And my first thing is to, yes, we're trying to get an urgent meter with the minister, which we believe Susan Close, not only around East Wellington Water, but also with the status of where the Coorong visitor plan's at. I think my reading of the plans of the director are we're in a reasonable position in terms of being ready. Saying that, there's many things that can go wrong in the next probably 6 or 8 weeks, but we need to have this high on our agenda now COVID's over and all those other reasons to try and resolve this issue of the water at Wellington East. And I'm aware of a couple of complaints, letters of complaint I have seen. So that will substantiate our case to the minister.
Good, thank you.
I'm on
one question, if I may.
I'm trying to work around minute action list. Sorry, John. Councillor
From the previous. Yep.
Yeah.
The Pelican statue at Meningie.
Yep.
Has any thought been given to preserving that in a resin base?
Through Chair, we have, as you know, the report regarding the condition of it was significant in that it was removed as a public safety risk. We have also asked the original artist whether some of the pieces could be removed and restored. They have come back with a quote, and we will come to you with a workshop. The quote to restore them with resin, as you suggest, is significant. We are also looking across the grants that are available to see if there's some grants to make a replacement, because that park will be having some new sheds and a little bit of work done to it over the next 6 months. And so a new piece of artwork, we're not sure it's good value for money to restore it with resin. There are bits of it, but cost is really quite significant.
Still on minute action list, councillors. Councillor Bland.
02922. In relation to the barbecue shelters in the Lions Park and the master plan. Obviously is in train. Are we likely to see that?
We have housed a consultant to draw up some master plans. I think their attention might be otherwise at the moment with flooding, but they are a group that we're already using for other things, and they have indicated that they will come back to us with a high level master plan that we can then take to the community for consultation.
Thank you.
Minute action list, councillors. Councillor Arthur.
In the Pelican at Meningie and part of with the cost work that was done in February 2019, that was not included, although it was a rather substantial report that in the statement. So I'm just wondering if, when the CEO will be able to provide that to us.
We can bring that back when we bring the briefing notes. From memory, I think I've answered that out of session, but I will get the amount. From memory, it's around about 38,000 that was spent to finish no, that's the boat. I'm mixing them up. Sorry, councillor. I will find that amount, but that was the first preservation activity and only preservation activity. I will bring that amount to the briefing when we do it.
Yeah, this was work that was done in 2019. Thank you.
Any other questions out of the minute action list, councillors? There being no more, I move on to item 5.1. Questions with notice. I have nil. So we move to 5.2, questions without notice. Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we can see, there is no reference to assets, infrastructure and assets in our agenda, and nothing relevant of an information document. And I realise it is a big agenda, Mr. Mayor, but I would have thought it'd been pretty important that council gets a message out to the community what action we're taking regarding capital works and the River Murray and stuff like that, some concerns we have. And could someone explain why that's been omitted, please?
It's the information session in the community was there last week. We are also making sure that the community remains informed either through the newsletters that we do, and we've also sent a direct mailing to all the businesses in the district, or we're intending to over the next day or two. We have a mailing list of, Kelly, help me, quite a few thousand. Yep, to let them know what's going on. The issue is, and the message is the same in that we are not the lead agency on it, and there is no flood warning for any of our district at the moment, and there doesn't appear that there will be if the modelling from Dew remains true. We will know each Thursday, we know a little bit more about that. For instance, the second wave that might come through now, so the modelling on that is happening. And I think that the SES will also provide us with more information as it comes to hand. But at this stage, it's counterintuitive, I know, we're at the end of the river. You expected us to be in the worst position, but we're probably in the best position in terms of the flooding over the next probably 6 weeks.
So, councillor, yeah, I think some of us attended the meeting last Friday night at Menangi. But the other thing is our staff are also supporting other councils very actively at the moment, upriver, through our zone emergency strategy, well, saying what the words are, I can't think of. But so this stage, and I take on board what you're saying about our own capital budget, but most projects in there are underway. So we're somewhat assured. I know we're doing lots of repairs on potholes and various things, but yeah, I take your point. But you'll get a chance to debate the meeting. That's okay. Meeting outlines in a bit further through the agenda.
Just thought to ask the question.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions without notice, councillors? Councillor Bland.
Not a question, but just to support what CEO has said at the meeting at Menangi, I would like to congratulate Matt James for his very concise information. It went over particularly well. I think he probably got a reasonable accolade from the community for what he knew about the area, as well as, of course, the other departments, but in particular council, I think, in this case.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Rountree.
Thank you, Mayor. Just following up on Councillor Coleman's question, I think perhaps he was referring more to why don't we have something in our documents under infrastructure and assets? We normally do get something. There's been quite a few times that we just haven't had anything in that area. And is that because it's coming in a different way? But we should have it here more so than relying on newsletters and stuff.
So through you, it's really just a matter of timing. Matt's been up at the Riverland helping out. The information around the flood and the potential for, or the impact on this district, we thought that the community meeting would suffice, as well as we've had some direct letters to Wellington East, and we had a direct mail to them in terms of the impact on them. So I'll take your note, but at this point, we didn't think that there would be anything extra we could add at this first meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There being none, I move on to item 6, the Mayor's report. Sorry, I didn't actually Miles attend on the 27th? Didn't get to that one at the end of the day. Did not attend on the planning implementation report, but in the rest I did. There's no questions.
I was just going to ask you that one, Mr Mayor. For
Well,
a
if you,
brief-
well, I'm sure the director will, he said he enjoyed it.
I
Oh, I
did.
thought you did. Sorry,
I
that
did,
one.
Mayor.
The CEO attended. Councillor Bland?
Yeah, I'm happy for someone to answer that.
I attended for some of it and about halfway through when it was very much focused on garages in urban areas, planning in urban areas. My advice to the mayor was it was probably not worth his while to come into the city to attend. So it was very much around planning with a city perspective, not from a regional council. Having said that, there is still opportunity for us through submissions. Is that right, Miles?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Couple of things on that. The Minister has just announced an extension for the period for comments regarding the review, noting recent local government elections got through now, I think, until the end of January. In the meantime, to ensure that there is representation of regional issues, there's a submission being prepared through MRLGA. So my counterparts at all the regional councils have come together to put a draft submission together. That will be put before the CEO forum of the MRLGA. And I suggest it's really honed in on the things that we know that are particularly difficult with the implementation, such as the one-off development application and people being able to use the portal and having difficulties in terms of having to submit electronic applications, and also some of the policy issues that are associated with, such as excising a dwelling on a rural block. I just also for elected members' information, I'll intend to in the new year have a session on the planning system and particularly hone in on strategic planning because that's where you have influence. And it's the regional plan and the Wellington East structure plan that I really would like you spending a lot of time next year considering because as I said before, that's where you have influence. If we're trying to influence development applications, it's too late. We need actually to influence policy that comes well before development applications. So we'll be taking you through that early in the new year, and I'll touch on the review as well. But quite frankly, as the CEO said, it is very metro centric. But rest assured, there's a group of regional planners that have made sure that our issues are going to be heard.
Any other questions? I'll move on to council members' reports, and I have nil unless anyone wishes to report anything. I don't think I'm made aware of anything. No. Number 7, motion, I have nil. Number 7.1, any motions without notice from council members? I have nil. Move to number 8.1, Office of the CEO's report, the 2022 council election results, declarations of office. In your agenda, councillors, there is a recommendation that council receive and note the report of candidates elected at the 2022 local government elections. Is someone prepared to move that way? Councillors Rountree and Bland. Councillor Rountree, you want to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Bland.
Just to congratulate everybody.
Anyone else wish to add anything to that report? We feel we might be able to advertise the results of the election in our normal monthly. Yeah, we have a normal through the Lakeland of Tailem Topics and the Canalpin Hub.
That's what I was going to ask, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had someone bail me up in the street for the exactly the same question. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councillor Peach.
if I may, I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but note the discrepancy with the Electoral Commission's estimation of vote completion versus what happened, and the number of data entry people that there just seem to be a little understaffed.
Yes. I think we will get a chance in the very near future to respond to the electoral process as a council. And I myself, as I may have discussed with some of you, have some things which I think they could do better. But yes, they certainly need some help sometimes. Anyone else? Councillor Roundtree's closing.
Closed.
Okay, I put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against is carried unanimously. Number 2, appointment of deputy mayor. Councillors, there is quite a report on a method there and that. Perhaps the recommendation, perhaps was someone moving a decision on which number of years you'd want to do, Councillor Roundtree?
I was thinking 2 years, 2 years.
It's up to the floor.
I'd agree. I'd agree with 2 years.
Are you seconding it, Councillor Bland?
Seconding.
I'm taking it as Councillor Roundtree is moving the recommendation and Councillor Bland is seconding. That is that the term of office for the position of Deputy Mayor for the Coorong District Council be for a period of 2 years. And that Council appoint the Deputy Mayor by an exhaustive ballot election process and that the method of election be by secret ballot. Any more further debate in that, councillors? Councillor, you'll close.
Closed.
I'll put the recommendation as it reads with the insertion of 2 years. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously.
Mr Mayor, could I just make a comment? You don't have to vote anymore.
No, well, I'm about to tell you something new. I'll work out where I'm going with this. So appointment of deputy mayor. So advice was sought regarding the mayor's participation in this process, given the changed sort of status of the mayor in this room now. And we have been advised that in accordance with section 51(4), the Local Government Act, the mayor is required to participate in the process to determine which member will be selected.
There you go.
Thank you to the staff for digging around on that yesterday and confirming that, because that's I'm required to vote in a secret ballot if required. Councillor Roundtree.
Am I able to put forward a nominee?
I think we're at that point. I'm just trying to find where on the agenda that is. Item 1. Page 11, item 1. Nominations will be invited by the mayor from amongst council members. They do not have to be in writing, nor do they have to be seconded. Nominations will be achieved simply by indicating I nominate Councillor X. So since you have the floor, Councillor, you are nominating someone better than X, I hope.
Only slightly, yes. I'm Councillor Arthur.
You are nominating Councillor Arthur. The mayor will then inquire as to whether the person nominated is prepared to accept the nomination. Councillor Arthur.
Yes,
yeah.
for
Is
two
it
years.
yes? I then will call for other nominations. You can nominate yourself if you so, Councillor Bland.
I would like to nominate Councillor O'Hara.
Councillor O'Hara, are you willing to stand?
Yes.
Anyone else wish to nominate anyone, including themselves? If only one person is nominated and that person declared elected. Well, that didn't happen. If more than one person is nominated, then the matter will proceed to a vote. All members present are required to vote in the election. It is not a conflict of interest to vote for yourself if you've been nominated.
Should be.
Should only 2 nominations be received, then the successful candidate will be one with the greater number of votes. We've already decided the voting process in the by the exhaustive ballot process and a secret ballot. So I think we don't have to appoint scrutineers in this scenario. No. So we've got a special new Coorong Council voting container. vote for the person by name you think is your preferred deputy mayor, please.
All right.
I have to, I gave one to my wife.
Sorry, I don't know what I've done with the one I had earlier. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't care.
Ben,
Jesus, Ben, that's. No?
Yeah, I know.
You got a lock on it?
Might get Miles to do the counting.
Oh,
Yep.
the camera might see that. I think you should.
What's your man? Apparently it's you. Oh, apparently I can't delegate that as your man before.
Someone else should go and assist Miles.
I'll be.
Hmm. Councillors, I want to think about whether you can do the school presentation nights in December, please. There's Tuesday, the 6th at Menengi at 6:45.
On my way.
You're away, so councillor,
No. I doubt it,
all right.
but you know.
Friday, the 9th at Kerman-Duke, and that's a daytime event because it's the 60th anniversary of the Area School Canal, but I think councillor Roundtree said she might be able to attend it. The reason I will be at this stage, MRLGA's first meeting of this term is still scheduled for then. Wednesday, the 14th, at Taylor and Ben Primary School, at 7 p.m. 2 seats are reserved, but only if the 2 Taylor and Ben based councillors might like to go along. That'd be lovely. And on the 15th, Tintinara Area School presentation ceremony at 1 o'clock requires at least one of you. So you two.
Unfortunately, I'll be away, but
Oh, yeah, you
I
did
will be
indicate
helping
that.
them set up during the week.
Hopefully, councillor Arthur, you might be able to do that one.
What's the date again?
15th.
15th at 1 p.m. So I'm pleased to declare councillor Arthur is the new deputy mayor for 2 years. Thank you, Mick. And since you've got that pleasure, councillor Arthur, the student art show exhibition on Friday morning at 10:30. Here. Okay. Otherwise, I've got to be at 2 other places as well, perhaps none. Item 3, agenda format for council meeting. Have a discussion around this before we move into it. Is that a better way of? I'll add it to this, Ash, I don't know, 5 minutes of. Fire your questions at the document, please, councillors, because it does represent a change in the way, at least over the last 4 years, we've been running the meetings. Don't rush me.
That's through you, Mayor. So number 6, it says conflict of interest. Is it at this point in a meeting that we would declare a conflict of interest for things coming in the meeting, or are we still doing it as the items come up?
It will be both. So it's bringing the idea of the conflict of interest to the forefront of the meeting, so that everybody in the room knows that if councillor Roundtree has a conflict of interest for item number 10, then you will declare it then. So it's really that overall arching, I've got a conflict and I intend to do whatever, but it doesn't exonerate you from then declaring the conflict once the agenda item comes up.
I say so you do it both. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to suggest maybe the public question time, but now I'm looking at it, the meeting up to that point probably wouldn't be that long, and some people don't want to be here all night. So I think that's a good position for a public question time.
So one of the bits of training I've already done is that I really can't easily vary council agenda. Perhaps we've allowed that to happen. So by having this order, it allows a reasonably, we can reasonably work on up past 5 to up past 6 for that group of what I call, public attending the meeting issues, particularly deputations, which should allow people either after work or children or whatever, as we've done. So that's why we've brought that to that point, even though we cannot guarantee the time. Councillor, I'll go to Councillor O'Hara, then you, Councillor Roundtree.
Just while we're on the same item as Councillor Coleman, the from the public report, what is it? Sorry, question time, public question time. I'd just like to make comment on it, I think. And I remember sitting at home last year, or when it first came in, I think it takes away from the councillor's job a bit. I mean, I've always been of the belief that if I want to know something from the council, I go to my councillor and ask him, and he finds out the answer and brings it back to me. I think having public question time during a council meeting undermines the councillor.
So that is that advice? Yeah.
So you may, public question time is not a legislative requirement. It was a desire of the last council to have it on the agenda. We have just repeated that, but it certainly doesn't have to be there if the chamber doesn't want it there.
So it's up to the chamber. So we'll just note that in a second. Councillor Roundtree, I think you were next.
So I was through email, I was looking for extra information around these decision reports as opposed to the information reports and how that will work from a practical perspective.
So the reports that require a decision will be clearly marked in at the front of the agenda. The information documents we're bringing into the main body as a departmental report for your noting rather than just for your interest at the back of the. So it's
good. Yeah. All right.
Councillor Arthur.
Just going in on that to the CEO, we get a hell of a lot of information from a hell of a lot of different departments now. Your idea is to condense this, not give the same amount of information. Otherwise, we're going to have a 400-page agenda.
So the content won't change. The look and feel of them might be slightly different in terms of us trying to have a document that's consistent across the 3 departments. And I've asked a couple of the departments to have have a content in the beginning, but the size of your agenda won't change. Those documents will just be moved into the body of the meeting for your noting.
Second question: we've only got 2 directors, so do we only? You said we've got 3 departments, so we got a department of CEO, so we really got 3 departments.
So the community, so Kelly's position and Tracy's position report to me. So they report that, and this hasn't changed from what they do now. They put their reports in the office of the CEO.
Thank you.
Bland.
Just have a question around moving motions with notice and without notice. And probably even the minute action list so far down the agenda.
So you may. So the intention there is that sometimes the questions with notice, without notice in particular, questions with notice are easily accommodated, refer to items that are already in the agenda. So it's a way of making sure that if it's answered or there's a report in the agenda, there's not duplication, or we have to refer you to say, well, that's going to be covered in the agenda item number, whatever. So it really is just a cleaner way of looking at those 2 things.
And is that the intent also through Mr. Mayor in relation to motions with and without notice? Because that goes to number 16, that's even further down.
As you know, councillor motions without notice can always be referred to the following meeting anyway.
But with notice?
Motions with notice.
So motions with notice, councillors, first of all, have to be accepted by the mayor, and they remember the 7-day requirement. If they come before the chamber, then they will be answered similar to what we do now, which is to provide you background information so that you can make an informed decision. Yeah. And the governance officer will add something to that.
I'll just add, motions without notice can actually be brought at any time during a council meeting. So that's just the moment at which it's listed on the agenda. That's all.
So motions without notice are allowed in relation to an agenda item. So if, and you know, this would be good policy to advise the CEO of an issue you have, and then she may or may not choose to have an agenda report around that. Otherwise, it can follow with a motion either out of that report or as a motion with notice. Anyone else? Some ideas about this? The only particular thing I've picked is just councillors have a view in relation to who Councillor O'Hara raised, whether we should have a public question time. Councillors have a view on whether we should or shouldn't. It's in your hands. Councillor Bland.
Happy to go without. We didn't seem to have a lot in the last couple of years. I think people can present to council with due notice. I think it would be cleaner if we didn't have it, given that everything is now on YouTube as well. So probably a lot of those questions would be answered also in the body of the agenda in the way it's now been set out. I think there is an opportunity to, and then re-review this in 12 months' time. I also question the time. Has this council decided on a 5 o'clock time? Because that makes a difference.
You will in a minute.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Rountree, I'm looking for views here.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise I'm gonna take a
It's
straw poll.
it's an interesting view that Councillor O'Hara has raised. I guess I was trying to reflect on whether the public question time was used a lot, but then but we were locked down for a period of time and people didn't come. So would they have come more often if we weren't locked down and had this period of being shut away from each other? I recall it being useful in the beginning, and I felt there was often a lineup of people who wanted to speak. I take Councillor O'Hara's view that these people could also just talk to their local councillor as well to get that across, which is also an effective way to do it. So I feel a little bit not sure. I've seen it be useful. I thought at times it was useful, and it certainly community to feel engaged with council and to be able to come along and speak. But I can also see the point of view that do we actually need to have it, and how popular has it been? We certainly didn't get many in writing when we were asking for them to submit in writing. We didn't get, I don't think we got any actually come through that avenue. And we really only had probably a couple come and present or ask questions to us face to face as well. So maybe we do 12 months and see how it goes and whether there's any backlash. And if there is people saying we want it, then we review it, but perhaps we do give a trial without it.
Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Peach.
Mr. Mayor, I would make the suggestion that we do a halfway in between approach and go to a quarterly access point to the meetings for those questions, and see how the public approaches that sort of model. That still gives the opportunity, but makes it a one-off every 3 months. And I'd also ask, in terms of around that public access to the chamber, how is that, if somebody was to turn up at 5 o'clock, as I did today, how would they provide entry? How would they seek entry to the chamber?
It's open, councillor.
It better have been open, councillor.
Wasn't open?
No, the front door was locked. Not the front door, sorry, the second door was not.
Oh, the second door was?
Yeah.
But the front door was open?
Yes.
Yeah.
A couple of issues there, councillor, that shouldn't have been.
No.
It's just a public meeting. And the second thing is we are, I think, reviewing the doors and the arrangements at the front of this building, which are a little bit problematic and fail some disability access processes.
That wasn't intentional, councillor Peach.
No, that's all right. And I will acknowledge I was late.
The building needs to be open for this meeting, yes.
Yeah.
So you're perhaps a trial of every 3 months, which
A quarterly approach.
yeah, quarterly. Councillor Arthur.
Thank you, Mayor Simmons. I just think it's probably done as dash. I think it served a purpose when there was quite a bit of doing and froing and no one knew what was going on. But I think there's more people now that are getting their information by watching it on the YouTube. I know there'll be people watching today because I'll get home and I'll have a phone call from a couple that will say what happened there. So I think they've got the opportunity there. As and I tend to agree with Councillor O'Hara. I get quite a bit of feedback from, as the CEO could probably know by the number of emails I send through from my ratepayers, and I believe that's our job. And most of the time when you get these things are really only a deputation under another name. So, you know, I would be quite comfortable with leaving it out.
Okay. Everyone except I think Councillor Coleman, did you ever speak?
Oh, just a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Peach said 3 months. It's not a bad. It's sort of like a compromise because some people feel a bit, Mr. Mayor, uncomfortable coming and speaking in the chamber and stuff like that. And so, you know, maybe they can, as Councillor O'Hara said, communicate with a local elected member to be the conduit of information back to the chamber, or if they're comfortable, then come and speak. But maybe, yeah, we spread it out to once a quarter, maybe. Favour of that.
So one of the issues for us to address as now a lesser number of councillors is how we get the message out and listen to the community. And I think we'll be looking at various models of council in the community in the next couple of 3 months from a leadership point of view with your agreements as a council, whether that be via us just going to towns or whatever in an evening or an afternoon or whatever, whether that be an enhanced roads and infrastructure committee. But I'll be interested to see what your views are on that, but I just put that out there for the purpose. Councillor Maidment, you've kept beautifully quiet, but I'll only ask you if you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, with the public question time, I think as councillors, we need to be accountable to the ratepayers and residents of the area. I think we need to have some degree of public availability. Not everybody's got it. I'm talking perhaps the older generation, but I think we need to have some degree of public question time for whatever issue the people of the district have. So I agree with Councillor Peach that perhaps try a quarterly way of addressing that. And yes, being more proactive in the districts, more
All right.
approachable. But I think we do need to have some form of public question time.
So would a reasonable outcome be that we receive a note the agenda format for council meeting as tabled with not the exception, but the addition of public question time be every 3 months for a trial period of 12 months? Does that make sense to everyone?
I'll move that way, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Arthur has moved with that last bit of clarification around public question time, and we'll see what demand there is and we'll see what other model we come up for getting out into the community. One of the things, I suppose, in the previous term was COVID. The reality of COVID was for 2 years, we couldn't do much at all. Community, so.
Mr. Mayor, could I just change that to probably to be reviewed in February? Because you got December, January.
February 24, really. February when?
Yeah, so.
24, February 24,
Sorry?
February 24 to review.
Yeah,
And I would, deputations are at the presiding member's call if they want to come up to 24 hours notice. So that's still an option for people who feel strongly about something. I believe it's a little bit different to petitions. Councillor O'Hara's giving me that look, which I'm going to get used to. You want to be the seconder though, Councillor?
No.
No. All right. Let's make it easy.
I'll second the motion.
Councillor Peach is the seconder.
I have a question.
Councillor, we're now in debate. Councillor Bland.
Question. If we are going to look at council and community models, then does council see that that may supersede this need?
Well, it may, but in 12 months we'll know that. Councillor Roundtree, you're speaking for or against the motion now?
Question, following on from councillor Bland's question.
Yeah.
When we go out to the community, will we consider going out at times that suit most of the working people, which is probably going to be after hours and not in the middle of the day?
Through you, Mayor, that would be the decision of the chamber. I've seen it work in a couple of ways where, say, for instance, you go to Sherlock, prior to going to that particular place, we would contact the organisations in that area, and they may want to do a presentation to council, like it's a general invite to anybody to come along and just first of all meet the councillors and ask a question. The timing would be entirely up to you.
Anyone else speaking in this debate with the motion as it's slightly amended there, slightly adjusted? Okay, councillor Arthur, you'll close.
Close, sorry.
You close, thank you. So the motion is that council receive and note the agenda formats for the council meetings as tabled. The clarification that public question time be noted on the agenda only every 3 months, be reviewed in February 2024. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? So that's carried with councillors. I voted. That's bad. I know. Councillors Qualman, Roundtree, Maidman, Arthur and Peach voting for the motion, and councillors Bland and O'Hara voting against. Thank you, councillors. Item 8, number 4 is campaign donations returns. Someone just move that way, please. Councillors Roundtree and Bland. In debate, everyone understands that has to happen, including unsuccessful candidates. We can only lodge them from the 2nd of December, is that right? After. Another question. Who raised that earlier? Some of the more interesting parts of the process this year. Any debate? You're closing, councillor. I think you've already done it.
Yep,
thank you. I'll
closed.
put that motion as it reads. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 5, Register of Interest, primary and ordinary returns. The recommendation, councillors there. Someone want to move that way? Councillor Qualman. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara. Any discussion around that? 3 councillors involved understand that process. One of them's done it before. So
Where do we get a form? We get a form for it, do we, or off Ash?
still do some things the old way. Okay, there's no debate. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Item 6. Periodic review of items laid on the table as required in the Act. Councillors, the recommendation. Councillors Qualman and Bland. Any discussion at all? We have none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Appointment of members, section item 7, section 41 committees. So the recommendation is to appoint 2 councillors to the Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor Roundtree, are you nominating who?
Councillor Coleman, if he's interested, was one position. And Councillor Bland, if she was interested.
The Act only allows us 2 councillors on this committee, I think, reading the report. Councillor Corman, are you prepared to?
Yes, I'm prepared to continue the big learning curve. Thank you.
Councillor Bland,
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor.
is there any other nominations? Yep. Being that, someone move the recommendation, please, with those two names in it.
My name's up there. Did I not do it?
You can move.
Oh,
If
yes,
you-
please, yep.
You now move and councillor Maidment will be the seconder. That pursuant to section 41 of the Local Government Act, the council appoint councillors Coleman and councillor Bland to the Audit Risk and Risk Committee. Any debate, councillors? There being none, put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? It's
Good on your hands, Mayor.
carried unanimously still. 4 years. Appointment of delegates, section 43 subsidiaries, item 8. This is in relation to Marylands and Riverland Local Government Association for this term of this council. So you'll notice the mayor and the deputy mayor and councillor Bland. You want to nominate?
Councillor O'Hara.
Excuse me. Councillor O'Hara. Is there anyone else wish to nominate anyone else to that position? Councillor O'Hara, are you prepared to do this, good
I suppose.
write your name in already, so.
Thanks for that.
So the recommendation, if no one else wants to do that role, is that council endorse the appointment of the mayor as council's delegate and the deputy mayor and councillor O'Hara as proxy delegates to the Marylands and Riverland LGA for the council term, 4-year term. Any discussion?
Through you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there's other people that might want to do it as well. Like I know if councillor Hara, if he's not feeling like is he feeling like he might not want to do it? Should we maybe?
No, he's looking very keen.
Very keen.
Keen as mustard.
Okay, all right. I just feeling a bit worried for
I
him.
would say that the meeting is open to public,
Okay,
and as a general role historically, we've met at Karoonda quarterly, including next, whatever it is, the 9th. I see what's coming up, but we may do that by Zoom just because we're cognizant of obviously most of the councils in the region are in somewhat of a flood issue. So
yep, all right.
that's the purpose behind that. Yeah. So, okay, the recommendation is with councillor O'Hara's name inserted. Is there no further? Councillor O'Hara, you're not getting out of it, are you?
If I can just say, sometimes I don't look interested in things, but that's just the way I'm in. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's not that I don't care. My wife's always telling me I've got to show more interest.
Up the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I have, so have I got someone moved and seconded that yet, Ash? I haven't.
No.
Does someone move that, councillor Coleman?
Yep, thank you.
Yep. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roundtree. Any further debate? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously.
I move that.
But the number 9. Appointment of delegates, external bodies and organisations. The recommendation that council appoint members as representatives to council appoint the mayor and the deputy mayors as his proxy to the Local Government Association half-yearly meeting. The council appoint the mayor and the deputy mayor as proxy to the Local Government Financing Authority, which is 1 yearly meeting. So totally separate process of voting. And councillor Roundtree is about to move that someone council appoint councillor, there's 2 councillor positions as member council representatives to the Murray-Darling Association Region 6. Councillor Roundtree.
I have a question and I also want to nominate someone.
Question
The
first.
question is, with the fact that there's 2 positions, if we put 2 up, do they get 2 votes or is it just 1 vote? It is 2 votes.
2 separate votes.
Okay,
Council, look at councillor Coleman being our previous
And councillor Lang, we used to both vote. Mr.
Both
Mayor.
vote. So
Yeah.
it's two separate votes.
In that case, I'd like to nominate councillor Peach, if he was interested as one of them,
Any other,
And-
councillor, you want
councillor Coleman.
councillor Qualman as well?
Yep.
Councillor Peach, you've had your hand up, so.
I have just a question, a clarification question. I note that in item 8 that we've just dealt with, there was a term for the appointment of 4 years. That these others don't appear to have a term on them. Is that, just wondered what, is this a yearly review thing or how does that?
That's a term of the council, isn't it? Question.
Ashley,
Not clarified, but it would be taken to be the full term.
council can revise its delegations whenever it sees fit. Saying that, I think the two LGA ones are probably
Set.
set. But the last ones, if you're looking for a reason, while we would anticipate you doing 4 years, since you're one of the names on the list now, doesn't mean you can't pull out of it. We think it'd be good.
Yep, no, I'm happy to accept the nomination.
Anyone else want to nominate for the Murray-Darling Association 2 positions of? Okay, is someone now prepared to move that recommendation for all 3 points, please? Councillor Arthur,
Councillor Bland had a hand up.
I was going to move it, Mr Mayor, but I'll second it.
All good.
we're going to go on with this discussion about me seeing your hand.
I am, you're right.
I'm trying.
Give her a flag.
different.
I'm going to bring that fly swat.
You're going to be, well, this room's quite interesting to see with no background at all. You're the second though, councillor. Thank you. Is there any discussion around that? There being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 10, 2021-22 annual report recommends that we adopt the 2021-22 annual report and we adopt the audited general purpose financial statement and notes forming part of the statements for the period ended 30 June 2022 and as attached to the 2021 annual report. And as councillors, you have circulated just prior to the meeting an adjusted report which didn't substantially adjust.
No, that's not that.
Not that one, it's a different one.
That's for the report in there is the one that went to the audit committee earlier.
It went to the audit committee earlier today who endorsed it with no changes. Lodged tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
The reasons brought to your urgent attention and why this meeting is today. Councillor Roundtree,
I'll move it.
you're moving that way. I trust you've read it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Coleman, so I'm looking at Councillor Blair. Right, is there any debate around this most important document, councillors?
Just
Any
a,
questions?
just a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I noticed I find it hard to comprehend the salary expenditure. It was, last year was 5.32 reduced to 4.73, yet we've employed quite a few extra staff. We've had a 1.8% EBA agreement rise, 0.5% long service leave, a superannuation payment. Plus we one person got a $30,000 a year rise, and yet we've decreased our salary expense. How could we do that big? And just looking at the numbers of the staff we still have, it doesn't seem to have changed all that much.
So this, remembering this is at June 22, not now.
Yes.
Generally, we have recruited against vacancies. The only new staff member prior to June 22 would have been the project officer in INA, and they were there this is their second year in the job, but other jobs were either budgeted for. There are no other new positions that have come in, councillor, so I'm not sure what you're saying in terms of we've employed a lot more staff.
Well,
We've got new staff, but they're replacing old ones generally.
Well, I beg to differ. We've employed a new, what do I call them? Customer service or,
Councillor, what I'm going to do is not allow you to sort of debate which person's where. I'm going to stick to the broader figure, and I'm going to ask Bridget to talk about the capitalising.
So,
staff.
yes, so sometimes staff start off as operational. But for instance, James Clark's position is generally 90% to 100% capitalised. So that becomes a capital cost rather than operational cost. So that is a moving, I suppose, or a change to the salary every year where we only know at the end of the year how much we're actually capitalising, and that ends up in the balance sheet. The operational side of it ends up in the profit and loss.
the capitalisation is only $150,000 difference from year to year.
Yep. So we do it every year, same thing. We have lots of projects and lots of staff are capitalised.
It's still, can't find it now, here it is. It still doesn't alter the fact that you've got quite a reduction in the salary, even after we take in the capitalisation.
That's for you, Mayor. Bill is sitting behind you, councillor. He might have a
Bill, I
comment.
need you to come down and sit at that mic there, please. If you can.
And there was also, on page 27, there was grants unexpected. What did that include? Is that the drought relief grants or the second? The drought relief, or what was it for?
Grants unexpected or grants unexpended?
Unexpended, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
So that is because we never ever can perfectly match grants in the year that they come in.
Yeah.
And then the expenditure, so the revenue and the expenditure doesn't always match. So.
And there was a comment made by one of the committee members about money for areas don't seem to match up. What was it, all that? I didn't, only got the last little bit of it.
Now, this is
And you did say that we were looking into it, and
this is the audit committee earlier today.
yes, in the audit
So,
committee today.
Bill, will you be present there so you understand what he's asking?
I can answer that one.
It was virtually well towards the end of the meeting, just before we went into conference. And
So there was the question from Karen, the independent
Yes.
committee member,
yes,
and it related to a table in there, and it related to the fact that it didn't match because, and it relates to the fact that when we were paid the FAGs, the financial assistance grants this year or last year, there was an underpayment that related to the year before. So that would have been the 2021, and the government paid us, that came with the FAGs that year. So it skewed the numbers and it would never match because of that underpayment that they rectified in the 2021-22 year.
okay. And there's one other thing that seems to go back and throw this money that's paid in this financial year, but it's not expended till next financial year. I thought we had that sorted out a couple of years ago, but now they want to change it again. Is that right?
So through you, Mayor. That's exactly right, councillor. So as I mentioned, I think last week in the chamber, the accounting treatment for grants 2020, the auditor in the room today said that they thought they had an agreement across the auditors in South Australia about how that worked. They are starting to discover that different auditors are doing it still differently. And so we had one set of auditors, and remember we changed this year as good practice dictates because our old auditors were in for about 5 years, and they have come along with a different accounting treatment. Now they'll call it just a slight wriggle. It was significant different for us in terms of what the previous auditors asked us to do. So we really changed it in 2020 to accommodate the changes to the accounting standards, and the new auditors this year who have been looking at it have had a different view of how they should be treated. In particular, the LRCIP grants, because they are We have capitalised them, but they are of the view that they should be operational because they're a grant that you don't have to actually apply for. There's a whole lot of reasons they think it should be operationalised. 9 times out of 10, we actually build something with that money, which means we capitalise it at the end of the day anyway. And so grants have been a moving feast, to be honest. Through you, Mayor. Councillor Coleman, you in the room, do you have a comment to make on that?
I just thought auditors was a good report, and especially about maintaining up-to-date value of our assets. I found that quite interesting, and we'd probably have to work a bit harder on updating depreciation, how much is everything's worth a bit more accurately.
To you, Mayor. Bill, do you want to make a comment about the salary?
Yeah, I can. This is back in reference to the employee cost. There's not one particular answer to your question. There's multiple answers, or multiple aspects to it. So, for example, salary and wages in the financial year 21, so the prior financial year, there were termination payments in that 4.6 million. There's up to 12 staff on record that were terminated, and as a result, termination payments followed. So that's one reason. There's also the FTE full-time equivalent cap for financial year 22 and 21 are the same. They were 57. However, in financial year 22, it's a snapshot. Also in financial year 21, that figure, that 57 full-time equivalent, is at the 30th of June in both financial years. However, throughout the financial year 22, there were multiple vacancies. So they didn't accumulate the employee expenditure, but at the snapshot at the 30th of June, they were filled. So what I guess I'm trying to say is, because the positions were all filled, the 57 were filled at the 30th of June, there were vacancies during the year. And with those vacancies, obviously there was variances, under expenditure against employee costs. So that's another reason for the 4.04 million compared to the 4.676. So there's a couple of reasons behind it, including
also, just ask you one question, Bill, is when you have someone goes on long service leave for 3 months, you draw down on the long service leave component out of the wages, like your present account.
the long service leave is accounted through the provisions, so there's provisions in the statements, and each year we need to make calculations to allow for the provisions. Those provisions are calculated per employee, and they're also indexed by bond rates. So to get an accurate figure on long service leave, when employees that are entitled to long service leave, the expense will trickle through the expenditure and the provision. It's like a seesaw effect, I guess.
Paying and taking out there. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make for you, Mayor, clarification what Bill said. People when they leave are entitled to their outstanding long service leave, depending on how long they've been here. Also, any recreational annual leave. So we've had no redundancies, but the payment that Bill referred to with staff leaving are those entitlements that they have on departure.
We're just trying to clarify that sorry, Bill, the word termination could have appeared a little harsh.
Well, they are, through you, Mayor, they are called termination.
Councillor Arthur, you're happy?
Yep.
Anyone else got questions around the recommendation? It's been moved and seconded, I note. Item 10 on. There's no further debate. Councillor Roundtree closes. Put the recommendation as it reads, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Now, item 11, council meeting dates and location. Okay. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Someone prepared to move it, or?
Yep, so I'm happy to move.
Councillor Roundtree's moving that. There a seconder? Councillor Qualman. Councillor Roundtree, you want to speak to it?
Only just saying that this is very much how we've currently done it for the last 4 term, and I guess if the new councillors have anything that they wanted to add, now's the time, but I was happy with how it ran before. That's all I'll say.
I'll go to Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, I just query the time at 5 PM. Why would we have it that late and we can't get home and have dinner with our family after the meeting and so forth? I mean, staff are here. I don't know if they get overtime or not, but they're obviously here out of hours.
So perhaps, I suppose this time, and we did try it. Did we ever try later? We did once in COVID, I think, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
This is felt to be the most reasonable compromise in allowing deputations, public questions, or particularly deputations to happen at a reasonable time in the evening. It also allows us as a general rule, because generally we would have some workshops prior to the meeting that don't obviously bring a decision to council, but any number of visitors and that, and they can generally happen then after lunch on a Tuesday, noting that Tuesday is our preferred day for other workshop days as well. But I'm in the hands of the meeting. We have a understanding that we don't go past what time, Ashley, anyway? 8 o'clock from memory, without the extension of the meeting.
It's not policy.
When it was 6, it was 9:30.
And as a general rule, might enjoy your home cooking. I don't like mine much. We have a light meal prior to 5 o'clock, but I'm in the hands of the meeting. Councillor Coleman's.
It's pretty sure it's 3 hours.
Yeah, I understand that we've very seldom gone over that in any case. So that would be the basic reasons. Councillor Peach.
Mr Mayor, my perspective on this, again, on point number 3, I would actually prefer it to be slightly later to start at 5:30 or 6, given the time I've got to travel on my work schedule, but that would be my perspective on that. Happy to
I'm
go
getting
with
varying
status
views
quo.
now. But I do have a lot. Did I get a second for the both?
Yes, councillor Coleman.
Yes, I did. So is there anyone else wish to enter? It seems the debate is around when it will commence at this stage. For questions. I'm not taking it as debate yet, I'm just taking it as points. Anyone else got any thoughts? I will invite an amendment, councillors, either way, if you wish, or we'll just run with the motion and see what happens. Councillor Bland.
I just have a question around, again, we have varying views for a range of reasons, from distance to family, etc. I'm just wondering whether, again, we put a review date on this to see how people are going, because some of it during winter becomes a bit different and summer. So maybe we should have this discussion again, a little bit like the previous one, and try for a while with the new council to give them fair opportunity.
Would you like just to refer 12 months or 2 years, councillor?
12 months.
Looking at the mover and seconder, just to be a dot point 4. That just
To review in 12 months.
no particular issue, Ashley, with that process. We're required to advertise how many months ahead our meetings.
I believe it's just before the next ordinary meeting.
Ordinary meeting, yeah, I think. Roundtree.
Question, have we ever considered doing summertime times and wintertime meetings, splitting the year up? So winter, we held them earlier in summer, but I suppose it doesn't really accommodate for people who want to come to the chamber and the deputation side of things either. I think I've answered my own question.
Taking note of what I said earlier about perhaps the not ability to change the agenda format or the order of format, like perhaps we may have done it before. I have got powers to do it, exceptional circumstances, to bring on a deputation or something. But so I'm sitting. Councillor Bland, you had a question?
I do. I'm just wondering whether whether there is a cost impact on any decision we make. I mean, there obviously is on people's livelihoods from the chamber itself, but there would also be from a staff perspective. So I don't think we actually know the figures by having it at a 5 o'clock meeting now.
So we could find those figures. There probably would be very little difference between whether a 5 or a 5:30.
Yeah.
Because the 5 o'clock is the figure basically for people working a longer day than they would normally.
Okay.
Councillor Peach.
Mr. Mayor, if I could move an amendment to item number 3, that the ordinary council meetings commence at 5:30 PM.
You can. I'm going to ask the mover and seconder, we were prepared to vary, but I'm going to, no, I'm not going to, I'm going to take it as an amendment. You said so. So the motion is amended just to change item 3 to 5:30 instead of 5 o'clock.
That's true. I mean, why isn't that a variation?
Because I think it's not a substantive change to the process. And I think up till now, I've given you opportunity to do it. And I think because it's going to be reviewed in 12 months, because the councillor said it was an amendment. But I'm happy to wait for a seconder for his amendment. If I have none, it'll lapse.
I'll second it for debate.
Councillor Bland is the seconder of that. So Councillor Peach, you've got 5 minutes if you wish.
Mr. Mayor, the motion has been moved through self-interest, and as I've mentioned earlier, I am prepared to accept the majority and work around that. It is an hour and a quarter for me to get here, and particularly, as was mentioned by Councillor Roundtree, during the summer months, 5 o'clock can be a bit of a push with managing staff and so forth. So that would be my rationale behind moving it. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Bland, do you want to speak to you?
No, I'm opening it up just for for a debate.
Anyone else? Councillor O'Hara?
Should have kept my mouth shut, shouldn't I?
No,
I wanted it
you're
earlier.
here to get it open. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, I still would like it earlier. But
No, I'm looking
I'm
for
not going to
anyone.
make an amendment though, because obviously everyone else wants, and I'm happy to go with the majority.
All right, well, it's an amendment at this stage, and I'm looking at the people who are left to speak, and there's only 1 or 2. They don't wish to speak to the amendment. I declare that part closed and put the amendment. The councillors, you're voting for the amendment, which makes the variation on the original motion to 5:30 instead of 5 o'clock. Everyone understand that?
That's, Mr. Mayor, sure you have the mover and the seconder agreed with that? Or?
No, because it's not theirs.
It's not our motion anymore.
I haven't varied it.
Yeah. Through
No.
you, Matt, can we just have a minute to think about this?
A minute.
I don't know, just,
Minute. It's not 30.
well, no, I'm trying to do the sums, like 9:30, 10:30.
So that would mean the latest in our normal process, councillors, we'd try and finish by 8:30. You went to 5:30 start.
And through you, Mayor, I often have a very selfish reason that I go collect shopping in Murray Bridge after the meetings, and I have to be there by 9 in Murray Bridge, otherwise Woolies close. It gives me half an hour to get there.
So, yeah, I'm looking at, one of the other things is, we do have our Tuesdays for briefings and various other things. Today's probably a bit unusual. We kicked off really only technically at 5 o'clock. So I'm going to close that debate and put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? Those against? So the amendment is lost with councillors Peach and Bland voting for the amendment. And those voting against being councillors Arthur, O'Hara, Maidman, Roundtree and Qualman. So the amendment is lost. We are back to the motion, which is 5 o'clock, councillors. Is there any further amendment? I'm thinking probably not by the look of that. So we're back. If there's no further debate, I will put the motion, which is as it originally read, but with the addition of a review of this in 12 months. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 12. This year's Christmas and New Year office closures that council receives and notes the report. Someone move that way. Councillor Bland, thank you. Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. Any debate? Being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously.
I'd just ask a question through you, Mr Mayor. in
Around that
relation-
agenda item, I hope.
Around that agenda item,
Yep.
and that is our contact number when we need assistance during that very high tourism time has not always been effective. I'm just wondering whether we've been able to deal with that issue.
So through
Yeah,
you, we
see
will
ya.
review that and make sure that they've got clear instructions. They have been, there's been improved performance, if you like, recently, but we will make sure that they are responding appropriately. And I agree, we've had some issues in the past.
Yes, it's usually around the caravans and waste, and I'm not sure what they think I'm going to do about it other than find someone to clean it out. But it's always a problem.
So, councillor, you wouldn't be the first person to say that our after-hours call service is not as good as it may have been.
But I'd actually appreciate
CEO's
you knowing
aware.
where we are.
Yes. Right. 9.1, Code of Practice for Access to Meetings of Council and Committees of Council Documents. There is a recommendation there. Someone wishes to move, please. Councillor Rountree, is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara. Any discussion around that, councillors? No one? There being no debate, I'll put the motion as it reads. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Code of Practice, Proceedings of Council and Committee Meetings. Number 2, 9.2, we're on. Council, someone, are you moving, Councillor Rountree?
I have some questions. and
There are some
discussion.
questions. I'll give you some questions for a minute.
The part where it talks about not recording how people vote. I think I would like to see that remain. I mean, these are our minutes of our chamber, and I think it's actually been useful and important to have it. It's for transparency, and I would like to see that part stay. My second question is, with the recordings, the YouTube recordings, how long do they stay online for? Is there a time limit?
Indefinitely.
Yeah, so I'm very much for leaving it how we're doing it now, and that's recording who votes which way rather than just saying carried unanimously. And I would like that bit amended in the document if possible.
No, I'm going to seek the REM's view on that particular
Absolutely.
subject.
Sure.
You know, I've been emphasising this already today.
What's that? Sorry.
How people vote, or the word unanimous, you know, I love it. Oh, any other councillors' questions around the proposed changes? Councillor Bland, you and me are going to talk about, we are
We are.
again.
Been promising for some months.
Well, I'm trying, but I'm not working for me.
I have a question around the same subject as Councillor Rountree, and that is, although I'm in favour of just going with unanimous, I would like to know, is there any reason from a legislation perspective that we must or consider that, or is it just an alternative of putting for and against and the names? I know why it was brought in some time back, but I would like to know why. I think it sometimes is a little misleading document in relation to what public see if they don't go and watch the YouTube debate.
So To you, Mayor.
Mhm.
My understanding is that the regulations are silent on how it's recorded. Would I be correct in saying, but that we are not in step with most councils for how we do it?
My understanding was similar to that, and certainly practice previously over many years. It changed some time back. But now we've gone to YouTube. I wonder of the validity of needing that, given that there is no context often around the debate,
Around the debate of,
the item or the motion that has been moved or lost. It is just moved or lost with names against it versus having the debate, which people can watch on YouTube.
my view, councillors, is I think we've one of the very few, if the only one, that do it. And as you would know, governance people that have come to us over at least the last 4 years have all found that one of the more unusual ways of doing business. I would say that now virtually permanent showing of your hands and how you vote on any one motion, and I believe I read them out pretty clearly, shows how you voted. Make the life of the presiding member and the minute takers considerably easier, I can assure you. We didn't, but I'm in your hands.
Another question through you,
Yeah,
Mayor.
Ham.
If we're recording when people leave the room during the meeting, like it's recorded in the minutes when we leave, why do we do that when we don't?
Required in the Act.
Required in the Act. So.
And when you return, councillor.
Yeah, for sure. So from my perspective, if we're recording those sorts of things, recording how people vote, there's no harm in it. And I think it offers a bit more transparency as to what the elected members are doing.
Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 199 questions and part 3 down the bottom, it says a member may ask a question without notice at a meeting. And then part 5, it says a question without notice and the reply will not be entered in the minutes of the relevant meeting unless the members present at the meeting resolve that the entry should be made. Now, probably of late that in a normal council meeting, we have YouTube so they can see the comment that is made that isn't recorded. By watching that, the community can. But what happens if we have an I&A meeting where we don't have YouTube and a residential ratepayer has a relevant question and say, I ask it, and then all it shows in the minutes then, unless, especially if the committee doesn't agree, it doesn't go in the entry what he responded with. See what I mean?
Looking at the governance officer, because committees are different than in this relationship, aren't they?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it says proceedings on council and committee meetings.
Does.
Through Mayor, I believe the regs stipulated that the question, as you said, the question is only recorded if it's resolved by the committee or the council. There's no, as far as I know, for council meetings, there's no ability to vary that within the code of practice. I have to take it on notice whether we can do so for committee meetings. As the Mayor said, they're a little bit more freer.
Or less recordings, councillor, and if we would take the committees out. Now, saying that, we are looking at how we may record or televise committee meetings that aren't in this room. But I know your point.
Yes, thank you.
And that would help with some clarity sometimes coming back to full council.
And if I may say, Mr. Mayor, I try to avoid questions about notice because it leaves people on the spot and that very reason. You won't get the answer, won't get recorded. So
Recorded.
yeah, thank you.
Councillor Rountree again with a question, I trust.
Well, I'm wondering whether, just to get it moving, if I was to move the motion but with a statement saying to leave in, then we could debate it and an amendment could happen if no one wanted it.
Well, you're moving that way with
then
the
I'll
wish to
move that.
retain whatever
The recording.
paragraph is in relation to how we
I
do
think it was paragraph 14 and then we can move from
paragraph
there.
14.
It's
Councillor
paragraph-
Rountree is moving all that with paragraph 14 remaining instead of being removed. There a seconder? Councillor Maidment. Councillor Rountree, you want to speak to your motion now?
All I'll add is that I think it worked. It didn't do us any harm. It worked, and I thought it was always a useful thing to have a look at retrospectively, and I'd like to see it stay.
Okay, councillor Mayman, you wish to speak to the what is the motion? Sorry, it is the motion at the moment. Councillor Arthur, you were going to say something,
Yes,
or we don't, just what's going on there?
I think this is one of the problems we have with the recording of the minutes. If you look up your minutes from last week, it's got Bruce, such and such, seconded, blah, blah. That's it. It doesn't give you any guts of what actually
Because it's not to,
took place.
not
And,
to.
yeah, and people need to know that.
So they can watch the YouTube now,
Yeah. No, well, some people don't have YouTube.
but the
you know,
minutes
like that.
cannot be a commentary.
Believe it or
Councillor.
not, there's some people that don't.
I know. No, I do believe it, but
Yeah, but you know, like that is one of the bugbears that I get asked about all the time is why don't you just say, you know, like we normally say, Director of Infrastructure provided an answer, and that's it. Can't we just have a brief section of what the answer was? That's all we need. And if it means that we can move, we can as a committee, we can move every motion that it is recorded, but that will take up time.
Agreed.
so we'll come back to the minutes, councillor. The minutes are recording of the results of the decisions of council.
Just a brief.
Otherwise, we may be accused of writing a commentary, which is not the result of the minute. Minutes are a result, not a commentary.
Well, not really, because we've still got to accept those minutes are not
Yeah, I know.
accepted till the next meeting.
Exactly. But what I would always say to all ratepayers, if you want to understand the minutes, please read the agenda that it came from. Because that's the only true way to understand the discussion, is to understand the report and the agenda item first and foremost.
I think through you, Mayor, the only way to get around that is to then put questions with notice, restate the question again and have a formal written answer if we can't do it.
That's
And I agree with Councillor Arthur, if we can't put a bit more detail in other than
Nearly closing me, councillor. That's right.
director provided a response, then we have to do that.
So I'm looking at the rest of the room because I'm not quite seeing where we're going. Councillor Peach.
Mr Mayor, I consider the benefit either way of recording the names of those that have voted. However, the paragraph afterwards, these 3 points, it says that this is a cosmetic change. I would actually disagree with. I will be supporting, I'll add to that, we'll be supporting the motion. Because I have ratepayers that will be upset if we were to take those names out at this note at this point in time, who I think would actually provide commentary on that change. So on that basis, I will be voting to keep them in.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, we're never very clear in closing this debate. So councillor Roundtree, as far as I can see, you will close.
Who was the seconder?
Councillor Maiden was, and
sorry,
she
yeah.
hasn't indicated she wishes to speak, so.
No, I'm just saying I was the
Yeah.
seconder for the motion, so.
It is the motion, even though it's a variation on the recommendation or an addendum. As I accept that, that's the motion. I'm looking at you to close.
Yes, closed.
So everyone's clear on this? We are adopting it as a recommendation with the change that we continue on with recording everyone's names and how they vote at every vote. Everyone clear? All right, all those in favour? Those against? It's carried unanimously. Number 3, council members' allowance, benefits and support policy review. Someone wants to move that one, please. Councillor Arthur is moving. There a seconder? Councillor Roundtree. Councillor Arthur, you want to speak to it?
Legislative requirements, so I don't think there's really much discussion needs to be done. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Roundtree, any other councillor wish to speak to it or against it or whatever? There being no one, Councillor Arthur, you're closed. I put it as the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Councillor Rountree. We're moving to 10.1, Coorong Finance Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of November, councillors. Please. Coleman. Yes, councillor Peach, you've got a question or you're seconding it?
I have a question / query. I'm just wondering
Just
if
give me a second to give me a seconder if there is one, please. Councillor, yes. Councillor. So I'm just going to take your question, yes.
so the question is around the going through the agenda. Would it be possible to provide a page number so we can jump through to the relevant area that we're dealing with in future, not today, in future?
Through you, Mayor.
It's a technical question
Somebody-
around something that I can't.
Somebody, Miles, help me, but once you're starting to look at your agendas on your laptops, it's my understanding that you'll be able to open them down the side and look at page by page. Is that right?
I've got one open now doing that.
So it may be a technique that we train you to do. So that,
I did go to the bookmarks to see if I could jump through bookmarks to the relevant sections.
but it didn't work.
There's 2 bookmarks. I can go to page thumbnails for sure, but in terms of actually seeing that detail within it.
Look at it to make sure that the navigation tools work appropriately for you. Yep.
Yep, the other option, councillor, is to go back to the index and then you can link back to the appropriate
It'll
item.
take you straight through.
Okay.
Councillor Rountree, you,
But question.
yeah.
In the minutes, 5.2, Councillor Arthur asked about the Equipment Reserve Fund and a response was given. And I'm wondering whether for this meeting, we could move to have that answer. But it's come up a few times and I just think it would be useful to have the answer to that question. It was a good answer that was given. But rather than just say that the CEO and Director of Infrastructure provided a response at that meeting, of which we have no record of, and I wasn't at that meeting, I don't think, possibly was, but anyway, I'm just wondering whether we could have it recorded in this.
Says you were.
minutes. Yeah, right, well, can we have it recorded at this, in this forum so that there is an answer written somewhere on paper?
We cannot change that.
No,
now,
but
and that-
now we're now talking about it, record it.
Well, you're accepting the minutes to make. Adding the answer.
For you, Mayor, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but if you send me a question with notice, we will answer it in the public domain at the next meeting as a question with notice.
And that will be recorded. Councillors, is there any other? How are you catching my bug, are you? Councillor Qualman will close.
I'll close, Mr. Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Number 2, Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of November. I'll move that way, please. Councillor Bland. And is there a seconder? Councillor Arthur, is there any? There being none, you'll close, councillor. Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour? Rocky, those against? No, it's me voting. Carried unanimously. Councillor, I propose a 10-minute break, please, 6:41.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Councillor O'Hara and me are both soon to have,
I die.
and we have, I would suggest some luncheon out there if you want to indulge, and we'll come back in 10 minutes at 6:51, please.
I have to pull my notes and I don't actually. No, I have. That we write down who does what. Mixed ourselves up. And nothing surprises me.
No, and you know, we get
Yeah, exactly. Can't come printing out all that paper.
But it's,
And I think
and I,
we're almost there, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's the Woolies one, so.
Really, for me, it's pretty cool because
First shoulder.
Mm.
I do think sorry.
I can tell you that. I'm a bit.
And then, yeah, you got.
Because it is so stupid.
Yeah, it does make it a bit trickier. But then we knew that when we got.
That's right. It's always going to be someone going to be happy
Mm.
or whatever time.
Mm,
Sorry.
that's right.
No.
You should just not be a
Just
red
gonna
wine
throw it
after
away.
the last 4 months.
I think she might be on Tuesday morning, so I won't really come until
Turn at 6:52. Well, we return. Thank you. So we're at item 11.1, budget review 1, financial year 22-23, and that is that document that was handed out to you a bit late, before the meeting started. The recommendation, but perhaps I'll ask some questions first. Councillors, any questions in relation to the budget review 1? Councillor Roundtree.
Has council received any further information about the timing of receiving grant payments?
Sorry, councillor, could you say that again?
Have you received any further information about the timing of receipting of grant payments? It was one of the questions in then after findings. I wrote myself a note. It was in the revenue section, and it says grant income is currently displaying at 2.192 million. This item may change due to the determination of timing of receiving grant payments, awaiting current auditor's instructions findings.
Through you, Mayor, that is what I referred to earlier, so that there was a difference of view for the previous financial year. We will now start to amend it in line with recommendations which came today.
Questions around this item, councillors?
I'd just like to make the comment, Mr. Mayor, if I may, that it doesn't give us much time to have a look at these figures when we just receive it this afternoon.
Only 1 page difference, councillor, to the what
Yeah, but
agenda.
yeah,
All of the information you had in your agenda pack, apart from that 1 page that we mentioned, that correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but wouldn't change your view about the actual document itself. It's just 1 table.
yeah.
There being no questions, I'll look for someone to move it. Councillor Bland, you're moving?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Roundtree, right. Councillor Bland, you want to speak to it?
No, I sat in on part of the audit committee today. I feel quite comfortable with it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Roundtree?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Is there anyone else? There being no one else, you're closing, you're happy? The motion is, as the recommendation is in the agenda, councillors. Council adopts the attached budget review number 1. All those in favour? Waiting for Councillor Peach to finish his mini pie. Thank you. Those against? 2 parts to this, councillor. You must vote, and I don't like having to call anything but unanimous from an efficiency point of view. I declare it carried unanimously. Number 2, discretionary rate rebate request. Councillors? Very interesting. Councillor Roundtree, you're moving that way.
Yes, I do have a question.
You're moving with it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Coleman, I'm going to take, I saw you, Councillor Bland, don't think I didn't see. You have a question, Councillor Roundtree, and you may speak to it then.
Thank you. The question is, through you, Mayor, how did we end up with a really tiny piece of land in the first place?
So through you, Mayor, I'll get that over to the person who in charge of everything to do with planning.
Through your worship, I suggest this may have been human error at some stage with land division. So what's occurred, and it is unlikely to have been council's responsibility. So I don't want to point the finger at a state government department, but one can only think that that's how something like this might happen. So just to explain for elected members, if we look at that aerial image on page 47, the shaded block and the red triangle block are on the same certificate of title.
Incredible.
Yet they have a block in between them that's completely different certificate of title, not associated with it. Yet the triangle block, the red block and the shaded block have 2 separate assessment numbers because they're 2 parcels of land, even though they share the same certificate of title. It is very odd. I've never come across it in my, 40 odd years of working. I actually not seen this one before, so it did throw me initially. And unfortunately, that little parcel doesn't have a great deal of value, and it wasn't an issue until we change to the fixed charge. So essentially, someone's having two fixed charges on the same certificate of title piece of land. So the process is to obviously if you approve the rate rebate, that small parcel goes on the rate rebate. So no matter what happens with that small parcel, as long as it exists, there won't be a fixed charge on it. But in the meantime, the owners can work with the Lands Title Office to see to remedy this anomaly.
So that through you, Mayor, that little piece, that little triangle, it looks like it's part of a scrub block. Who owns that other scrub block?
A separate
Not a name,
individual.
but it's a separate
So
individual.
one of the solutions might have been if it was in the same ownership, you'd amalgamate those two parcels. But there may be some opportunity down the track to be able to negotiate with the owner of that bush block. But it's a really, really odd one. It made me start thinking about small parcels of road reserve and the like, because it's a block that you wouldn't be able to separate in a rural environment without a very specific purpose.
Also a very odd shape.
It's very odd shape and it's I would suggest
Interesting.
it doesn't comply with planning policy, even older planning policy. So yeah, an odd one. And I'm glad we may be in a position to help the owner to at least address, a little bit of a financial impost that they're wearing because of this.
My only thoughts, councillor, and the only thoughts of mine is that whole allotment, including the piece north of the blue one, may have been originally one allotment. And the only time I think I've ever seen something like this is what I would have called a water reserve historically. And it may have been something as simple as that, but never been rectified. Anyway, we've got a way of resolving the issue today, or helping the issue. So is there anyone else with questions? There is none. Councillor Coleman, you don't want to speak to it? It is, as it reads, that the council applied discretionary rate rebate to the fixed charge for a piece of land identified in that valuation number on Heinrich Road. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 12, infrastructure and assets report. We note we have none at this meeting. Number 13, no petitions. Number 14, no deputations. Number 15, the best I can see, Ash, no question time, no public questions. Thank you, Bill. Number 16, confidential items. For those watching the live stream, please be advised that the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. Those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after today's meeting.